What I'm going to do is to open up the air filter housing, push down on the two lugs, just pull this cover forward and remove the air filter. And you can see there's a little bit of dust where the spiders have been in there, but all in all it's fairly clean. And of course it's dry, not sodden in oil and not wet. So I think this air filter is serviceable. If you find your air filter is really dusty, you can blow it out with a can of compressed air or a compressor if you've got one. Obviously not blowing it too hard that you're going to destroy the paper. So that done, we can replace the filter. With the basics, we're just going to check the spark plug. So the spark plug is located behind the spark plug cap here. So we'll gently pull off the spark plug cap from the spark plug, taking care not to yank it clean out and we might damage the cable. I'll just tuck that to one side. So here we can see the spark plug. I'm going to take my spark plug spanner and remove the spark plug by rotating it anti-clockwise. There we are, and that reveals the end of the spark plug. Now, if the spark plug is particularly black and fouled, then there's a good chance you may need to replace the spark plug, or certainly give it a good clean with a soft wire brush. This spark plug looks fairly serviceable as it stands, so we know that the spark plug isn't fouled and I can replace the spark plug. To check the oil level. Now ideally we'd take this opportunity to give it an oil change. So that said, let's just check the oil level. I'm going to take the dipstick out, give it a wipe, place it in the hole. I'm not screwing it down. Lift it back out and I can see here the oil level is very low. There's not much engine oil in it. So what I'm going to do now is show you how I would remove the oil before we start to use it, to show how the oil could be drained easily at home. So the simplest way to change the oil or to drain the oil, now normally you do this when the oil is hot, but with this being in the beginning of the season, we don't really want to run it when we may still have stale fuel in it. So what we're going to do is remove the engine oil. So there's very little in this, but what I would do is put it on the edge of a table as I've got it here and tip the lawnmower over. You may need some assistance with this. So I can tip the lawnmower onto its side, and as you can see, with a suitable container I could drain the oil out of the machine, but there's actually no oil in this. So that done, with the oil completely removed, we can place it back on its four wheels, and now we're ready to top up the engine oil. So we're going to move on to the fuel system. Now we need to think about our own safety here. I happen to be in the studio here at the moment, so I haven't got any fuel present. But if you're going to be draining the fuel system, which is a good chance you're going to have to do, you need to do it in a well-ventilated area, ideally outside and away from any sources of ignition. So just bear that in mind because we're going to be having fuel open to the environment when we drain the system. Okay, so let's move on. So of course we don't want to be releasing large quantities of fuel here, so the best thing to do is to remove the fuel filler cap and just take a look inside the tank and make sure that it's not full of fuel. If it is full of fuel, the ideal scenario would be that you had a fuel extractor or vacuum unit to suck the fuel tank dry. If not, you can use the same method as we did with the oil. Get yourself a suitable container, some suitable blue roll or paper roll, what have you, and pour the fuel out of the fuel tank into the container by tipping the lawnmower. As I said earlier, this particular fuel tank is empty, but it's well worth completely draining the fuel tank as much fuel out as you can by pouring it into a suitable container before we move on to the carburetor. So moving on, we need to drain the rest of the fuel system. To do that, we need to remove a plug from the carburetor float bowl, which is located here on the right front hand side of the lawnmower. So again, we're going to be having fuel coming out, so I'm going to take some paper towel or absorbent material and put it underneath. So fuel flows from the top up at the fuel tank, down through the fuel pipe and fills this float bowl. So you will notice that there's a nut on the underside of the float bowl, here, pointing vertically downwards, and that's what keeps the float bowl on the carburetor. And this bolt here is the drain plug, and it's pointing towards the front. So we can get a spanner on there and turn it anti-clockwise, and we can unscrew it. Now take care, there's a small red washer underneath this which seals the drain plug. Make sure you don't lose that when you remove the drain plug. So I can completely unscrew the drain plug, and any fuel that's in the fuel system or the carburetor float bowl will drip out onto your rag. Have a bit of a supply of rag at the ready, depending on how much fuel is left. As I said earlier, this one is completely empty. So leave it a few minutes until every last drop has come out, and then, again, as I said, making sure we don't lose the little red washer, we can replace the drain plug. At this point, we would refill the machine with petrol. So again, being careful not to spill any, we'll fill the fuel tank, roughly a litre of fuel, and replace the fuel cap. Should you spill any fuel, make sure that you give it plenty of time to evaporate, and make sure you wipe up any spilt fuel. So we're ready to try and start the machine. So having done the air filter, the oil change, drained the fuel system, refilled with fresh fuel, and checked the spark plug, we're going to attempt to start the machine. So the scenario is here that either the machine won't start, or the machine does start but runs extremely erratically and not a healthy sound coming from the engine. Then there's a good chance that we do need to clean the carburetor. I'm not going to go into cleaning the carburetor in this video, but there is a whole other video that specifically shows you how to clean the carburetor on your Hyundai lawnmower. Well, I do hope you found this demonstration useful. For more information on this or any of our other products, visit www.hyundaipowerproducts.co.uk. I've been Adrian, and happy gardening!